Welcome to our 8th episode of the KOGA Summer Webinar Series. My name is Emily Childers and I'm the Association Manager for KOGA. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Today we will hear from Marathon and Mark West Rob McHale, who is an environmental engineer, and will discuss innovations in pigging. Before we would begin, I would like to thank our webinar sponsors. The summer series is sponsored by both Country Mark and Ergon, as well as Aqua Clear Inc., Bingham Greenbaum Dole, Bitco, Black Ridge Resources, Cumberland Valley Resources, Diversified Gas and Oil Company, Inlink Midstream, Hughesland, Phil Brown Insurance, Reliance Well Service, Steptoe and Johnson, and Wyatt Tarrant and Combs. You can also see past episodes. We have them on our website at kyoilgas.org/summer webinar series. Next week's episode, we will hear from a representative from Wolfpack who will discuss permitting and current technology. You'll be able to register for that after this meeting. Also, I want to remind viewers that you can ask questions at any time by submitting them on the right-hand side of your screen. And at this time, we'll turn it over to Rob McHale.
Emily, thank you. Thank you to the sponsors and thank you all for calling in. I hope that you find the information that I'm about to present useful and informative. As a little bit of background, again, my name is Rob McHale, and I am here on behalf of my employer, Mark West and MPLX, to present this innovations in pigging and a little bit of the background on the reason why I'm doing this. We are actually on a regional, if not, well, I would say more than regional campaign to spread some of the information that we have gained and some of the technology that frankly we have developed and helped develop so that folks who own and operate rich gas gathering systems in particular, if not gathering systems writ large, can have additional tools to help reduce emissions. It is a point of fact and public information that we are the recipient of a first of its kind consent decree from the US EPA related to this same subject. And a lot of the innovations and discoveries that have come about as a result of that consent decree. And so we are on a mission to share this information to raise the standard of pigging across the nation. So I will get into the presentation with that brief introduction. So for folks that may or may not be familiar with Mark West, MPLX, we are the largest gas processor in the Appalachian Basin. That includes the Marcellus, the Utica, and the Southern Appalachian Basin. Some photographs you see for reference. A lot of folks associate us with the big shiny towers. We're a lot more than that, but point of fact, the picture there in the middle is actually a snippet of the Sherwood gas processing plant located in Doddridge County, West Virginia, central West Virginia. That is the largest gas processing plant in the Western Hemisphere. The last I heard, I think we are number 3 in the world in volume processed at that facility, capacity of 2.6 BCF. Picture on the far right there is our Hopedale fractionation facility. Just a little fun fact for everybody. One of our smart engineers calculated the number of rail cars we load on an annual basis and translated that out to feet. And as it turns out, if you had a straight track from Pittsburgh to Tulsa, Oklahoma, you could walk all the way from one location to the other and never touch the ground. So it's a pretty significant amount of rail cars, but I'm not here to brag. I'm just giving you a little bit of information about who we are, what we do. All right, so our presence in the Appalachian system, actually Mark West got its start there in Siloam, but our facilities include, let's see if I can, there we go. Having a little technical difficulties, folks. Bear with me. So our facilities include the Langley facility and Boldman, not too far away, just over in Pike County. Our Canova facility, which is located just across from Marathon Petroleum's Catlettsburg refinery. And then the picture in the upper left there is our Siloam facility, the beginning of MarkWest in its current configuration. All right, so where this really started for the genesis of this discussion was here in the Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio area. And we were invited out to southwestern Pennsylvania in Washington County, second from the bottom on the right. And we were invited out here by Range Resources to be their midstream provider. And let's see if this animation will work. Oh, beg your pardon, folks. Technically challenged. So anyway, we then expanded to Butler County, Pennsylvania, the little smaller green, and then over into Ohio, the 6 counties over in eastern Ohio. And in a span of 10 years, we built about 1,600 miles of pipe the hard way. And what I mean by that is we built that in 3 and 5 mile chunks, buying right away from each individual landowner without the use of condemnation, and built gathering systems for our producer customers over here. Currently, our gathering is about 3 BCF a day. All right, so where we pick up is from, let me see if I can make this work. There we go. We pick up from the launcher at the well pad and all the assets in between, from the low pressure receiver, slug catcher, down to the compressor station, and on the high pressure discharge of the compressor station all the way back to the processing plant. So all of those things are the things we own and operate. All right, just for folks that may not be intimately familiar with pigging, this is a typical, or at least it was a typical launcher receiver site, a remote site, not located at a compressor station. Okay, so why do we pig the pipelines? Well, there's a variety of reasons. Number one, you want to manage pressure drop and keep your optimal flow for your producer customers. Number two, you want to keep the liquids, those things that are valuable, moving forward. You want to keep them going from the well pad to the compressor station to the processing plant. Want to recover as much of that and return as much of that as value for the producer customers. We obviously want to manage internal corrosion. So by pigging and keeping the lines clear, we minimize internal corrosion, and we want to prevent the buildup of paraffins in the pipeline. Okay, so I'm going to hope that the pictures work on this. So we're just going from a closed barrel of a pig launcher to the pig ready to be launched, to loading the pig. All right, to the pig ready to go. Now, I assure you that we will get to something that folks will find beneficial in this. But this is, again, just a little bit of introduction for those that are not intimately familiar with the actual pigging process. So let's see if the little animation works here. Kind of explains in some simplistic terms the actual mechanism of pigging. And yes, I acknowledge that what is represented in this little cartoon is a ball pig and not a cup pig or a brush pig. But you'll have to forgive my limited abilities in PowerPoint. I could not generate a cup pig or a brush pig. And that, folks, is the mechanism of pigging. All right, now, I had mentioned at the beginning of this discussion that we were the recipients of the first of its kind consent decree, and it was focused around air emissions. And we're sharing this information with everybody so that if you are not routinely engaged in evaluating air emissions from pigging, it might be worth taking a second look. And each state has a different threshold for what is acceptable emissions. So for example, Pennsylvania has a 2.7 ton per year per site. This is in VOCs, okay? Now, Ohio, they actually have a 10 pound per day per unit limit. And what we have found through evaluation is the pound per day limit is actually the greater challenge of all the things here on the versus tons per year. Pounds per day is by far the most challenging. Now, I know you'll look at it and say, well, West Virginia has a 6 pounds per hour. That is also very true. I will say from our perspective, we have not encountered difficulties in permitting VOC emissions in West Virginia, primarily because we don't have the gas gathering system there. We run an NGL system there. So I will tell you, I will caution everybody on this call to be mindful of the pound per day number there. And the important thing in permitting this and evaluating your permits is that you use the real gas law and not the ideal gas law. Believe it or not, you will find a difference in your emissions calculations. There are various factors in this formula that will weigh more heavily than others. One in particular is the compressibility factor. Okay, so I had mentioned at the beginning of this, we're going to talk about innovations. And I will go through each of these individually for everyone's benefit. And I will go through these in order of least cost to greatest cost. And some of these, I think folks might be astonished to learn how simple innovation can be. So the first one, and by what I mean by how simple innovation can be, this very first one, the innovation, quote unquote, is the 2-inch pipe that you see above the launchers and receivers. And we call these high to low jumpers. And what they do is they allow us to take high pressure gas and instead of venting it to the atmosphere, vent it to the low pressure barrel. And before anybody asks, I will say that the pressure in the high pressure vent to the low pressure receiver does not come anywhere near the smice of the pipe. And so it is not a concern to route that high pressure to the low pressure. What we have found is that our system is able to accommodate that volume of gas, and it is actually very beneficial to not only the environment by reducing emission, but it's also beneficial to our producer customer by keeping that volume of gas, seemingly insignificant as it may be, in the pipe. And I will tell you that while it may seem insignificant, the amount of times, the frequency with which one pigs can make that volume not insignificant. So the next innovation, and this is truly innovative. Folks on the call may look at this and think, how could a rusty old ring and some welded metal be considered innovative? Well, I will tell you that we applied for and received from the U.S. Patent Office That patent you see there, number 100-12-340. What this device does is it allows the pig to run up into the receiver and allows the liquids to drain back. So before we installed these, we had containments, and they routinely would catch a significant amount of liquid, and we would manage the liquid at these distributed locations. But by allowing the liquids to run back in to the pipe, we're able to essentially pig it to a more centrally manageable collection location. And it, number one, reduces emissions at the launcher receiver or at the receiver door, but it also allows for easier management of for the liquids. And that is what a pig ramp looks like installed in a pig barrel. Doesn't look like a whole lot when viewed. And you will see in this presentation information, and you may have seen it in the invitation, a link to the MPLX website. In that website, you will find the, let me get to it here. I'll get to it later. You will see the specifications for fabricating that pig ramp. That sharing of technology is also something that has been agreed to in the consent decree, and we are sharing this design with the world free of charge. So the next innovation that we have, again, it may not seem particularly innovative to folks, but I will tell you that we had originally built our gathering system with longer barrels to accommodate an inline inspection tool. And one of the downsides of the longer barrel is that it is more volume and more gas to manage. So what we have done in response is we have switched to a shorter barrel design, acknowledging that when it comes time for inline inspection, we have to unbolt the short barrel and install a long barrel to accommodate the ILI, or inline inspection tool. But the trade-off is that for 99% of the time, we have a shorter barrel and less volume of gas to manage, thus reducing our emissions at the location. Oops, sorry. All right. Sorry, folks. The next device we've employed is the portable flare. Now, the portable flare is a very useful tool in converting VOCs to its combustion byproducts, CO and NOx. And being that this is a trailer mount, we can tow it from location to location. It's not without its downsides. As you might imagine, toting a trailer like that across the countryside is not without its challenges. It's also not without putting a flame in the sky, albeit for a temporary period of time. But it is an effective tool in controlling emissions, and is one that folks could consider if warranted. I will tell you, it is on the higher cost side of the innovations that I'm presenting. Okay, so the next one is this device called ZVAC. Some folks may have already encountered this company. They're gaining popularity. I am not here selling anything. I get nothing, give nothing to ZVAC. But point of fact, we did work with this company. They're based in Oklahoma, and we were essentially their test lab, their guinea pigs for developing a system that allows you to, again, move gas from one pipe to another. So by running essentially, if you think about it in terms of an air compressor, similar to an air compressor, except you're a portable compressor for natural gas. I believe in my last conversation with the folks at ZVAC, they're working on expanding their product line to other purity products and perhaps NGLs as well. They're easily found on the internet if anybody wants to go and look them up. I suppose folks can email me directly as well, and I can provide a contact information if desired. But we have been working with them for a couple of years now and have found a mutually beneficial relationship. So I think the next slide here is a video. I hope it plays. It's not very exciting. Forgive the rudimentary photo skills here. This was shot on a cell phone, my cell phone for point of reference. And if anybody could hear the audio, I assure you it would sound like an air compressor and little more. So that is the exciting video of the ZVAC in action. All right, so I talked about the emission reductions. What we had calculated before implementing all of these emission reductions was that we had a 0.02% total volume of our gathering system estimated to be lost from launchers and receivers during the loading operations. After we put all of these various tools into place, we reduced that amount by 84.7%, so that our emissions from pigging is now 0.003%. And again, depending on the magnitude, the frequency with which a gathering system is pigged, that could seem insignificant, that could seem significant. And so I touched this point again to remind folks that if you own, operate a gas gathering system, it might be worth your time, if you've not already done so, to take a look at your emissions. And if you find that you have significant emissions, you might employ some of these technologies, not only for the sake of reducing your environmental footprint, but from a perspective of keeping more gas in the pipe and generating more revenue. So I mentioned before that we were sharing this technology with the world royalty-free. I can tell you that I have fielded calls from people, just random people, who have stumbled across this, and I suspect they were pointed to it, but either way, they found us, and that's great. They found the design, and they worked at metal fab shops, or they owned metal fab shops, and they wanted to know if they could indeed fabricate these things and do with them what they will. And of course, the answer is yes. It is public information. Our hope is that folks that own fab shops, folks that own gas gathering systems, and know people that own fab shops will actually go out, get these designs, build things, and use them. It raises the state of the industry. It is a boon for the environment. It is a boon for the operators of the gas gathering system. And quite honestly, it could be a business opportunity for someone wanting to expand their product line. They're very simple to install, and they're very effective. So some of the other things, and well, before I move on, if you want to go find it, it is very easy. Google search MPLX, and you will find a link in there to all this information. Downloadable, shareable, please transfer the information. So we talked about the pig ramps, we talked about the pig barrels for reducing the gas volume, the high to low jumpers. Folks, it doesn't get a whole lot easier or cheaper than a 2-inch pipe. Honestly, it's a beautiful thing. Portable flares and ZVAC, both purpose-built, highly effective tools for reducing emissions. Okay. And with that, that takes me to the end of my stock presentation. One of my boss's daughters actually made this drawing for me. A little bit of pig humor. I don't know if anybody on the call picks up on that. And no offense to pigs anywhere. No pigs were harmed in the making of this drawing. So Emily, with that, I guess I will open up to questions. I don't know how, I can't see them.
Okay.
So maybe if you.
Yeah. We'll wait for a few to come in on the side there, but in the meantime, we have a couple asking, is your background in pipeline integrity?
My background is not pipeline integrity. My background is environmental.
Okay.
But I will say that environmental and pipeline integrity work very closely together. And I have, throughout the implementation of all of these emission reductions, worked very closely with our pipeline integrity group.
Okay, great. Let's see. How long did the process take for you to develop the product?
Oh, that is a wonderful question. Development of the process of the product, as one might imagine, was quite an iterative affair. And I will say that the development of the pig ramps was actually the brainchild of our former pipeline system manager. And from concept sketch to implementation was probably only a few months. And then there, of course, was some trial and error involved in that, which extended the process out to, I would say, probably the better part of a year. The ZVAC piece, that was also a trial and error where they actually field tested a lot of stuff with us over the course of, I would say probably 12 to 15 months of fine tuning and service calls and all the things that go into developing a product. And again, I don't want this to sound like a pitch or a plug for the folks at ZVAC, but I will tell you that they're very easy to work with from our own experience. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I can provide you with the contact information for the two gentlemen that run it. Their names are Doug Shahm, S-A-H-M, and Brad Sando. So I can provide that to you.
Okay. Another question we had was, how does having a patent on your technology affect the price of the technology for other companies?
All right, that is a great question. The patent that we have is only for the pig ramp, and per the terms of our consent decree, we have posted it up on the internet for anyone to use royalty free. So I don't have a single maker of a pig ramp that I would point anyone to. Instead, what I have is the design and all of its specifications on the MPLX website that I would suggest if anyone wants to take to a metal fab shop, they do that. We MPLX Mark West get no revenue whatsoever from it. And so the price of the fabrication is whatever folks strike with a fab shop.
That's great. And turning, the question was asked, have any marathon facilities been affected by the rewrite of RP 80?
That question, while a very good question, might be a bit off topic for the discussion around emission reductions in launchers and receivers. And while I do work with the folks in pipeline integrity, I would have to defer that question to them. And if anybody wanted to have that particular conversation, they could email me directly and I could put them in touch with our pipeline integrity group.
Okay. How about what other measures have you deployed to reduce pipeline emissions aside from the big ramp?
Well, we went through the pig ramps, the short barrels, the high to low jumpers, which is my favorite, and the flares and the ZVACs. So there are several tools available to us to use. And the reason, let me just clarify, the reason I said the high to low jumpers are my favorite is that they are so incredibly cost effective and so easy to implement. Just like the pig ramps are very cost effective and easy to implement, I believe that the definition of elegance includes simplicity. And so I am very fond of simple solutions. And in the aggregate of all the solutions we have implemented, I am very pleased with the net benefit to the environment and the opportunity to recognize greater revenue by keeping our producers' gas in the pipe.
Okay, let's see. Rudy Vogt has asked, what is the smallest pipe pigged?
Let's see. Well, I don't know what the smallest. Let me put this in terms of our gas gathering system. We typically have 12-inch diameter and larger pipe.
Okay. And what inspection techniques are there?
I think that question speaks to inline inspection. And I would again defer that question to the pipeline integrity group. That is not represented on this call on my end, but generally speaking, I think we have caliper pigs, we have gauging pigs, MFL, but for additional clarity, I would want to field that question through email and route it to my pipeline integrity folks.
Okay, we can have that person reach out. And
Sure.
then lastly, do you think that similar benefits are available for pigging crude pipelines or product pipelines like gasoline and diesel?
Oh, that's a great question. I think any place where you have an opportunity for VOCs to be emitted to the atmosphere, some, maybe not all of the things that we've discussed today might be applicable. And while I'm not familiar with a crude gathering system, I could definitely see a refined product pipeline system benefiting just based on the volatile organic compound content of the liquid.
Okay, good. Those are all the questions that came through for today. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Robert?
No, absolutely. But I am very receptive to fielding additional questions and having some email dialogue if folks want to reach out through you to me, or however that you want to handle that. I'm certainly happy to put people in touch. And please do check out the MPLX website. And if you're interested, go grab the designs for the pig ramp and share them with whomever you think might benefit.
Okay, great.
think,
Yeah, we can include your email
Okay.
on the website that has the past episodes with the summer webinar series on it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help. And I am happy to be a part of raising the state of the industry and being protective of the environment and hopefully increasing profitability for companies.
that's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Robert. And
again, thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Absolutely. I just want to thank our sponsors one more time, presenting sponsors Country Mark and Ergon, as well as AquaClear, Bingham Greenbaum Doll, Bitco, Black Ridge Resource Partners, Britannia, Cumberland Valley Resources, Diversified Gas and Oil, Inlink Midstream, Brown Insurance, Reliance Well Service, Steptoe and Johnson, and Wyatt Tarrant Combs. Again, our past episodes can be viewed on the website, kyoilgas.org/. And next week, we will hear from a representative from Wolfpack who will discuss permitting and current technology. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.